Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Hope you guys have been having a fantastic start to your Christmas season. Today, we're going to talk about your house mix. Now, by house mix, I'm not talking about how your audio is mixed in your room, whether that's good. I'm talking about the mix that gets played above your walk-in loop. Let's call it that. And I want to talk about this, how we put these together, what programs are we using to do this, where are we getting music from, how we use the music, and why. For all of you kind of old school guys out there, you remember making those mixtapes and how important, having the right order and all that stuff too was a good mixtape, right?
Making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts.
Getting this done really well can really set the tone for your church as people are walking in. How you set up this walk-in loop can really matter to give people a good sense of what they're about to experience when they walk into your church. So there's a lot of things that you want to get right as you're doing this. Now let's talk about one thing, whether you use secular music or not. I'm of both opinions on this. I think it's actually something that could be really helpful. I've played secular music in churches before. We've had it in our loops. I've played everything from Michael Jackson to Metallica and everything in between. Now, it can be a really good thing for people who have never been to church or never been to your church to come in and they hear songs that they recognize, and so they can get connected to your church. Now, this doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but I think it's a really good option. But I think something that you need to be aware of is you are still a church. You're still a family environment. So using music that has explicit lyrics, swearing, degrading lyrics to women, anything like that, I think is inappropriate, and you need to be aware of this. Regardless of whether the people who are coming to your church for the first time do all of those things in their own daily lives at home, they're not expecting to come in and listen to that music at church. It's gonna throw off your balance, but using secular music as a whole, as long as it falls into things that are good family environment songs, things that aren't going to use explicit lyrics or degrade women or over-sexualize life, things like that, I think are fine songs to use, but you need to be a little bit more aware of these things and making sure you're editing your music. Actually, I had a run-in with this really early on. Actually, when we started our preview services, I just had a Spotify playlist set up. It only had like 5 secular songs in it. Songs that I've used in church before, like a Macklemore song I've played in church before, so I knew it was a usable thing. The problem was I let the loop just kind of do whatever it was randomly picking. And so it played a bunch of these songs back to back to back. And we had some, let's call them seasoned saints who were in the early days with us who complained about it. So really, I just don't use it right now. We will pull in some secular songs here and there. We have used a couple, but generally I go to kind of top 40 Christian stuff, worship, things like that. But I'm all for using secular music as a bridge for people. Just be smart with how you use it, because the purpose of this music is to provide an atmosphere as people are walking in. So you want to build that atmosphere and allow people to get in. If they're just walking into silence, it can be a little weird. The next thing you kind of want to talk about is the flow of the music. We use different styles of music in our house loops, whether it be gospel stuff or rock stuff or worship, whatever it might be. We'll use varying styles, and we'll also use varying tempos of music. So you want to have a good variety of things in there. Now, I understand that people are not going to hear every song in this mix every time, but I want to have a variety of things in there, so as it's playing and playing through, people are getting different flavors of things that we might play with in the church. Now, there are styles of music that I don't spend a whole lot of time with. Despite the fact that I'm black, which we've talked about before, I grew up mainly listening to and playing metal, hardcore, punk stuff. I don't listen to a whole lot of black gospel styles of music. I have people in my church who do, and so I've reached out to them. Hey, can you tell me some of this different types of music that's out there? They'll send me links to things, and I can go listen to it then and implement some really good stuff into our mix. So I have a good mix of different styles of music. It's not just me. I don't want this church or anything that has to do with this church to just be about me and my preferences. I want to pull in lots of different options from lots of the congregation and the body, and let everybody feel like they're represented in some way. So I'll have different styles of music, and as I put it together, I will build, a really good playlist of this thing. Now, there are different ways that you can play your music. We used Spotify the first couple times that we were getting things set up. It was fine, but it wasn't what I wanted for a couple reasons. One, I don't like just putting in a bunch of songs and just hitting random. It felt like you were getting just kind of a mishmash happening, or we fall into the thing where it's just playing a bunch of stuff back to back that you don't want it to play in that sequence. Another thing that it did is that the song ends and the song starts. There's hard stops between things, so there could be gaps in audio periodically, and I would prefer to have a consistent flow where there's not dead space. Dead space can create a feeling of like, oh, what just happened? Like all of a sudden there's a gap in the music, and it can throw off and be confusing to people in the room. Another thing I didn't like about it is I wanted to keep things as simple as possible for my people at front of house. So having to switch to another application to go stop it when we were going to go start worship and all that sort of thing didn't work for me. So what I do is I build an entire playlist of songs all into one MP3. So that way I can build in fades, I can build my songs exactly where I want them, and I create basically my mixtape. And I'll do that generally in something like, you can do it in GarageBand, I've done it in there. Generally these days I'm using Audacity. Audacity is a really simple free download software that you can get on Mac or on PC. But you can do this in any DAW that you have. I have Logic, obviously we've talked about before. I've got Digital Performer. But the nice thing about Audacity is for really simple things like this, getting to some of the tools that are in there are really quick, really simple. So I'll use that. Put my entire mix together. I'll export that, and then I'll pop it into ProPresenter. And within ProPresenter, then I can add it to a slide so it plays at the right time at the end of service. It's house music that they can click on right there at the beginning of service. And once we go into start, it's all in sync with my playlist of slides that are going in. So now that I put a musical pad on top of this song, now the house music stops because the pads have started. And my crew doesn't necessarily have to worry about going now to a different software or remembering to stop an iPad or an iPod or something like that. They know that it's just going to stop. And then at the end of service, I have it built into a slide at the end that it'll just start at a good time when they click on that slide, and we're good to go. That's how I like to do it, just because it simplifies things and it makes it exactly what I want it to be. It's just cleaner to me if I do it this way. Real quick, I'll show you what we do in Audacity, what I do with this program, and how I cut it together. So let's jump into the computer. So here we are in Audacity. Now I have our Christmas house track from last year that I'm going to use again. I just want to drop some other songs into it. So it's here on the top line. And I've already cut some things apart and added some other songs here. There's a couple Planet Shakers Christmas songs I wanted to add in, as well as Here Comes Heaven from Elevation. That song is one that we're going to be playing this Christmas. So I'll often put songs into our loop that I want our people to be listening to. So they may not be paying attention, they may be having conversations, whatnot, when they're walking in and walking out. But it's something that can be in the background that they're hearing, and so they can get used to it. And so then when we do play it, they're like, oh, I remember that song. Be careful. You don't want that song to play right before or right after you and your team play it. Just smart not to have that happen. So we're adding some new songs in here, and so you can see Audacity is really simple. Like I said, it's a free software. It's really simple to use. So you've got your move tool right here, your selection tool. This was all one track up here from last year, and I've cut it apart. All I had to do was go find my spot where I wanted to cut it, and I would select that spot, and then I could hit Command I or come up to Edit, Click Boundaries, and Split, and I could split it at the playhead. So I've done that and added in these songs. If I just click on my move tool here, I can just click on this and move it wherever I want it to be. It's really easy, really simple to be able to do this. Because I want to keep things flowing well, I can come in, so this song might end right here, but I want it to flow into the next one, so I can add a fade. Let's select this area here, come up to Effect, Fade In, or actually for this one to be a fade out at the end of that, and then come in and fade in to the next song. I'll sometimes end songs early that I think are dragging on a little too long, so then I'll find a good spot where I want to fade that down and fade in the next song. So that's all I'm doing. I'm pulling all the songs that I want in here and putting them together and creating one continuous loop. You can see this one's about 41 minutes or so. So I know that at any point in time they can play this entire thing. If we've got time between services, it'll keep playing, and then within Pro Presenter I just got it set to a loop, so if it does ever hit the end of it, it can restart and go back to the beginning. I've put this together how I want it, the songs flowing together how I want them to, and that way I know what's going to happen and I don't have to worry about anything crazy going on, and my team can do it really, really easily. Use whatever makes sense for your church. Some of your churches may not do this at all, but I think it's a really helpful thing for people to be able to get in and not feel like they're just sitting in silence waiting for service to start. So it can be really helpful. If you're going to use secular music, please be smart with it and don't create an environment that is counter to who you are as a church. So please avoid that explicit stuff, avoid, over-sexualizing things, all that sort of thing. You want children to be able to walk in, parents not feel like they've now, you as a church have exposed their kids to something inappropriate for them or that they don't want them to hear. Pay attention to what you're putting in there. So I hope this was helpful in some form or fashion. I hope you guys have a fantastic Christmas season over the next couple weeks. I'll be saying that a lot, so Merry Christmas. Please like, subscribe, click that notification button so you get notified whenever I post a new video, and we will see you next time.